Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Vacuum Transport Seminar. This is now our last edition this semester, and it is the seventh edition. And we're very happy to welcome all of you tonight. Yes, I would like to welcome you in the name of all the organizing organizations, which is Eurotube, TUM Hyperloop, University of Applied Science Emden Leer, and the Institute of Hyperloop Technologies and Swissloop. I'm very happy to welcome our speaker tonight, who is Sheila Cohen-Kropf. She's the head of risk and external affairs at SwissPod Technologies, and she will talk tonight about Hyperloop regulations and standardizations. As a general information, again, we use this tool called slido.com, where you can all post your questions during the presentation, and I will put all the details in the chat in a minute, for that you can upload all your questions, and then we will ask them to Sheila afterwards. And now I would like to hand over to Daniel from Eurotube, and he will give a more brief introduction about our speaker tonight, and afterwards the stage will be yours, Sheila. Thank you very much.
So thanks from my side, Ila, that you took the time in participating in the seminars from the organizations here tonight. Maybe to give a broad overview of what your background is, also to the listeners. Gila joined the Swisspod at 2020, quite recently, but she has more than 20 years experience in the aviation industry. Maybe to give some names at companies such as Swissair, or also at IATA, the International Air Transport Association. Currently, she's implementing the regulatory and standardization frameworks of the aviation industry towards this new technology, so-called Hyperloop, as we call it. And yeah, I'm really glad to listen more about this topic, and also maybe getting some insights about Swisspod, their technologies, their progresses, and where the journey is going to take us, perhaps in a joint collaboration in this Swiss cluster, which we have with TUM, Swissloop, and the University of Emden Leer. So I would like to leave the floor to you, Gila. Thank you very much, and looking forward to your presentation.
Great, thank you very much for inviting me and inviting us, SwissPod Technologies, to this interesting seminar. I was following also the previous links that you published on the previous presentations. Very interesting. So as you said, I'm coming from the aviation industry, and as we know, Hyperloop is a high-tech, high-end technology which includes many transportation technologies. It's aviation, even space technologies, and of course rail and road technologies. And it's a complex issue. And definitely when we are talking about standards and regulations, our first and main topic is safety and security. So in terms of safety and security, our goal is actually to have at least, if not more, safety KPIs of an airline. So yes, I joined the SwissPod in 2020. Yeah, let's start. I'll give you on a nutshell, some information. Definitely, if you need more information and more documentation, you can contact me, and I'll answer each one of the questions also after the session. So our slogan is flying at ground level, because the speeds that we are envisioning with Hyperloop are much higher than the planes of today. And we are talking about Hyperloop governance, which means standardization, regulations, and also industry standards. All of those coming together under governance. So just to give some kind of a brief background about SwissPod. Our history in Switzerland started in the 1970s. The professor Marcel Jouffer from the EPFL This is the ETH equivalent in Lausanne. He envisioned the Swiss Metro project. It's an underground train network that is also supposed to connect the cities of Switzerland and relieve the traffic overload. And of course, keep the nature, the Swiss nature, etc. Later on, the project has been renamed to the EPF Loop. The EPF Loop team participated in Elon Musk's SpaceX Hyperloop competition and won several awards. Following these success stories, Elon Musk was actually meeting those winning teams, also the EPF Loop, and he told them, hey, how about you're going to do that, to just make this dream come true, come up with the most efficient, affordable Hyperloop solution now that you're in. And then they decided to go forward. So Swisspods Technologies is a spin-off of EPF Loop. EPF Loop exists still in the EPFL, and Swisspod Technologies is a spin-off of that. So it's two parallel, so to say, entities that work also together until today in cooperation. So Swisspod was founded in March 2019. I think it's 18th of March 2019. Actually, in March 2021, so earlier this year, we met all of us in Lausanne, and we celebrated 2 years for Swisspod. So it's not 2.5 years, we are heading very fast to the 3rd year, but still a very young company. Now the overview on the regulatory and the standardization processes and the situation of today. In Europe, we have quite an advanced situation, where the regulatory part of Hyperloop has been taken by the European Commission and Shift to Rail, which is a consortium of promoting transmission of transportation into rail, efficient rail, highly technological developed rail, etc., etc. This is the Shift to Rail project. And the European Commission, which is actually the regulator, is supporting the Shift to Rail consortium. On the standardization level, we have the JPC 20. I'm going to tell you more about it. This is the Joint Technical Committee for Hyperloop systems. In the US, we have on the regulatory side, a start already of the NET Council. It's a part of the Department of Transportation, the DOT, Non-Traditional and Emerging Transportation Technologies, NETT, Non-Traditional and Emerging Transport Technologies. So they have been starting already 1.5 years ago, they have been starting to work together. The NET Council actually includes all the regulatory bodies of transportation in the US. That means Federal Aviation Authority, Federal Rail Administration, all the transportation of hazardous dangerous goods, Federal Transit Association. So everything that is to do with transportation is under the NET Council. So they have done quite a good job in putting all the transportation responsibles into these non-traditional and emerging transportation technologies. Hyperloop is also under this subject, and also the vertically take-off and landing vehicles, autonomous cars, everything that comes on a high technological development of transportation technology, not only Hyperloop, right? Then in Asia, the situation is a little bit not so good or clear. First of all, I mean, those governments are not really so outside transparent. But in India, what we know is that there is a Niti Aayog. This is some kind of a platform or a panel or a committee that was appointed by the government in India in order to perform Hyperloop research. There are some rumors that where they are at the moment in the research, or that they've decided to look also at high-speed rail or whatever. There is nothing really official at the moment. And from China, there's no official information. Although there was one article, one video that was published on a high-speed rail in China, but they said that the infrastructure and the tracks are not ready. So at the end of the day, it's nothing at the moment, because you cannot say, okay, well, you have a train like moving 800 kilometers per hour, but then you say, okay, well, the track or the tube or whatever, the infrastructure is not developed, so it's not yet out there and feasible. So actually, the Asian markets are encouraged mostly by Hyperloop companies. If Richard Branson was in India at the time and visited and told them, okay, hey, I have Virgin Hyperloop One, and at the time, let's do things together, then he could have pulled them with his network and his lobby. But otherwise, it's only Hyperloop companies. It's not something that comes proactively from the governments. It wants sustainable transportation, or having some kind of plans like the Green Deal in the European Commission. So we would like, our wish is to do global alignments, actually, to usually we talk in Europe because in Europe we have JTC, we have also contact with the regulatory bodies from the European Commission. What we wish is actually to do alignments between the European, US, and other continents, other stakeholders, but at the moment we are a little bit far away from that, and we have to probably start a project because we would like to know actually what happens also in the Middle East, in India, getting an update, and in China, etc. We want also to do alignment between the EC, between Europe and the US, with the Net Council. And we want to define agenda and responsible people, because we would like to have coordination. We would like to actually not to do parallel work or contradictory work. We want everybody to be aligned and harmonized. And this is also something to do, and sort of a challenge in the short term. So if we look at the overall European governance structure and scope with regard to the contents, we see the regulatory, the standardization, and the industry platforms, where we look at governance, right? And the governance is including regulations, standards, then the stakeholder management, then the industry standards. There are also innovation, sustainability, and digitalization projects that will come, and the research to keep on developing all the time the new opportunities. Okay, now today it's high-speed rail and Hyperloop, maybe tomorrow it's something else. So we have to be, as long as the more we go forward with the time, we would like to be fully up to a good research on what we're doing as well. Maybe other opportunities or other technologies will come. Who knows? Happening very fast during these times. So this is about the contents. And if we look at stakeholders, then the European Commission and the Shift to Rail are here as the governing body. We have the Joint Technical Committee 20 of the standardization body. I'm going to tell you about the GPC 20 more in detail later on. Then we have the EU regulatory framework. We have the global industry stakeholders. Most of the time, it will be the 7 Hyperloop companies. There will be experts from rail and from aviation. There will be also manufacturers. Like, let's say at the moment we have in the JTC 20 a big metal manufacturer. That it's obvious that with all these projects going to be a big consumption of metal pieces. There will be probably in the future the battery, energy storage systems, etc., according to the systems in the Hyperloop. Then the Net Council is also on the interface with Europe. Then the US standardization and non-EU and US stakeholders. Is something that I mentioned before. So if we look at the hierarchical structure of actually regulations, standards, and industry platforms, the regulations are the highest, so to say, importance, right? Because the regulations are the law, okay? And this will be a must to do. The standards are depending. You can have your company or your product certified or not. Usually it's going to be certified definitely if it's an aircraft and if it's something to do directly with safety. Yes, but it's not really obligatory. And on the lower level, there is the industry standards. Like if you look at aviation, you're going to see on the regulation part, ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organizations, they write the laws for the airlines, for aviation, and then on the standards, you're going to see more IATA looking to interface, to make an interface so that to take the regulations from ICAO and put them in the day-to-day life and language of the airlines. And then the industry standards will be a group of airlines together that decide to do an alliance together, and they will say, okay, well, this is our standard. And IATA usually is also supporting this part. So some regulations are a must, standards usually there will be a must definitely for Hyperloop, and the industry standards is going to be shift to rail context. We do also things beyond the regulations and standards and the Hyperloop groups. Now, if we look at Europe and USA, as I said, the Net Council was actually there for quite a while. They are doing a very good job. They are actually very interesting because they're publishing all kinds of documentation about their scope, including Hyperloop, and then they place it on their website for the industry feedback. So that means not only US stakeholders can react on those documentation, is actually open for all the world. And this is really something beautiful because they posted a year ago a document, and we could upload on their website our comments, and there were comments also from other Hyperloop companies, from other stakeholders and experts. So what's something that I want to also say, that between the Shift to Rail and the JTC, we have lately set up a coordination, which means that the person from the regulatory on the Shift to Rail and EC is present in the JTC 20 meetings, and a person from the JTC 20, the chairman, was actually present in the latest Shift to Rail meeting. This is how we want to keep the alignment and coordination. What is the JTC 20? The JTC 20 is the Joint Technical Committee of the CEN, CENELEC. So the CEN, it's CEN, it's a Committee of Gender Normalization. It's the European Committee for Standardization. In the scope of the CEN, there is they are standardizing chemicals. Oh, sorry. Okay, can you see the slide back? Can you see the slide back? Yeah, okay. They're standardizing chemicals, construction, energy and utilities, defense and security, food, etc. CENELEC is doing also standardization, but for electrotechnical products such as electromagnetic compatibility, EMC accumulators, primary cells, primary batteries, insulated wire and cables. This is definitely things that we need in Hyperloop. So the CENELEC JTC 20 participants, they include the 7 Hyperloop companies, the European Standardization Offices and presentations, industry experts, and also academia. The 7 companies, this is why I all the time call the seven Incredibles. It's us, SwissPod Technologies, Hyperloop TT, Virgin Hyperloop, HART, Transpod, Nevomo, and Teleros. So if you don't know, then we, SwissPod Technologies, we are a Swiss American company, because we have in Lausanne our head office, and in Colorado we have the test site. Hyperloop TT sits also in the US and also have a branch in Spain. And this is how they are in the Joint Technical Committee of Europe. Virgin Hyperloop is also sitting in the US and has an office in Spain. HART is Dutch, Transpod is Canadian and French, Nevomo is Polish, and Teleros is Spanish. So just that you know where those companies are coming. So this is the CEN, CENELEC JTC. Just to give you, I just put a snip from the JTC documentation here, just to let you know of what we are working on at the moment. This is the JTC 20. There is a chair and a secretary. This is the structure. There is a chair. There's going to be a chairman advisory group. So this is in process, not yet nominated. And this is actually, this dotted line is to the international regulatory body in the EC, ERA, ESA, European Space Agency, and EASA, European Aviation Safety Agency, etc. Then this is probably also interesting for you. We started to work on the standardization, and we have two main working groups. Each working group has a convener and a subject. So the working group 1 is about operational services. Here there are two working items. One of them is standards inventory roadmap. What we do is actually we have a very big Excel file. We put there each one of the 7 companies plus the other experts put their suggestions and standards that they think that are applicable to Hyperloop. So it's a big Excel file with a big list, and also it is segmented according to subject, right? Risk management, cybersecurity, infrastructure, systems, etc. And then what we do now is we had already about 5 meetings that we went all of us together through each and every standard, and we had to say, do we need the standard at all? So not needed at all, or needed with review, or can be adopted as it is. So standard by standard, and there are hundreds of those, and it's still in review that we go one by one. And then what we want to have is we want to have a compact that is going to be a standard kit for the beginning in order to start the work on the standards for Hyperloop, and then afterwards look and do some kind of a gap analysis, what we have at the moment and what we actually are missing, including experts. Let's say cybersecurity. I assume that most of us come from the industry, from safety, from security, maybe not really IT. So if we say, okay, well, we would like to have a cybersecurity expert, then we would also write it in the preliminary document of this working item. Then we go to transport services. Transport services is actually an overview of everything that is happening in the Hyperloop. And it's about the infrastructure, the maintenance, passengers, cargo flows, etc. How actually the whole hub, the whole happening in reality is going to be. And then the working group 2, transport systems and requirements. We have the system aspect. It's a reference architecture is actually breaking the Hyperloop into systems. What we did, we worked all of us together on a generic breakdown of the system. Of course, each company has their own IP and their own technology. So we came to the most common and necessary denominator, right? And we work on this. And then there is the general requirements, what actually we want from this pod, and vocabulary definitions. All those working items are going to come, and those two working groups are going to also sit together and update each other so that everybody knows what's going on. Because those people that work on the systems reference architecture, they need to see safety standards that are being worked here with this working item. Now, just the final slide. I just want to share with you the achievements and the challenges that we have is actually individual and collective. I'm not going to touch too much on the business side, and definitely not on the engineering side. On the standardization and regulations, our achievement is that the standardization process here has been launched, is working. aiming to support future testing and certification for Hyperloop, because without the standards, we don't have safety measures and objectives to test and certify. The cooperation among the 7 Hyperloop companies is increasing. We are doing quite a good job also together and also off site. There are some, we also realize that when there is a document for review, instead of giving, submitting each one of the companies an individual feedback, we also meet off JTC and off Shift2Rail in Teams or whatever, and then we review together and we just submit one for all recommendation, which is really good. The challenges are like this. Okay, well, the regulatory process is tailing the standardization. In the US, the net was actually very fast and they're working very good. However, as you know, since January, there is a new administration. And ever since January, they are settling down within the new administration and it's not yet been there. So in January, they will have 1 year and they're still not ready. So we're waiting. The EU also has not initiated any explicit regulatory process. It's going to be probably within the next months. Now, if you look at the regulations, they are foreseen to be ready in 2030, as the EU regulators stated. So they will be tailing engineering and standardization. That means that I can say that there is a situation that engineering is actually far ahead than standardization, which is far ahead from regulations. And actually what we need is regulations aligned with standardization in order for engineering to know, okay, this is the way to go, because this is how I can certify, test my Hyperloop. But at the moment, we don't have it. We are a little bit in a transition period where we are waiting for things to run a little bit. We try to push the regulators, but you cannot so much, press the regulators. And then the funding, of course. There's no conceptual, regional, or global official funding for Hyperloop. Hyperloop comes all the time under emerging technologies or innovation, and we all the time, when we also review among our 7 companies, when we review those documentation, we try to recommend that Hyperloop is going to be mentioned there explicitly. Because otherwise, I mean, funding for innovation, what is innovation? What exactly is in there? So Hyperloop is not a software that is a cybersecurity software that is being developed. We need a lot of funding for the infrastructure and for the development, and the funding is really needed by all the companies. And yeah. Thank you very much for this, and I'm just curious to hear your questions.
Thank you very much, Cheetah, for your presentation and the insight about the standardization. I would like to jump right to the questions to the website slido.com, and let me start with the first question, which received the most upvotes. So the question is, what are the objectives for Swisspods test tracks in Switzerland? Which technologies are demonstrated in the loop?
Okay, well, what we have built the circular, and I don't know if you were looking at the recent publications. What we want to check and test is our propulsion system. And actually in this 1 to 6 scale, a Hyperloop model, infrastructure model, we can use those results for the full scale in Colorado.
All right, interesting, thank you. Then the next question, how do you think European and American standards can be combined?
Actually, in the standard inventory group, some, Virgin Hyperloop, Hyperloop TT, and also some of our engineers are in the US, and we inserted also there some US standards, even though they are not in the scope of European standardization. But what we said is, since many companies of us have this global thinking, what we do is, okay, we considered only the European ones, but we also considered American ones. So what we're going to do is, if we're going to take, we expect that there's going to be some work done, maybe some recommendation from the Net Council downwards to standardization bodies in the US if possible. But what we're going to do, we will have also to go and say, okay, this ASTM or whatever American standard is parallel to this European standard. So it's actually at the end the same. So maybe it's going to be a gap analysis between European standards that are required, but maybe it's going to be found in the US. So we are working, all of us together. It could be maybe one or two companies would say, okay, well, I don't mind about the US because anyway, it's not my area. But, you know, we have transport, which are Canadians, so also have to take care of their Canadian standard, and they also inserted the Canadian information into the European, because at the end of the day, if something is missing in the European standardization portfolio, so to say, and it is in the US or in Canadian or in Indian, whatever, then why not use it? We don't have to, we are very much on guard and not to do redundant work and to share as much as possible. At the beginning, it was a little bit difficult because the companies were a little bit like hesitant. What do I share? What do I don't share? But now everybody knows safety, security, certification, testing, standards, and regulations are going to be there. So this is something that we all so cooperate as much as possible, because if we don't cooperate, we just actually delay the whole process. And all the other issues like IP, specific engineering ideas or developments, they can be on the side because we are not there yet. Yeah.
Yes. And do you think there is still a long way to go? Is there much effort needed as an input?
Yes, there's still a long way to go, but just to let you know, when there is a joint technical committee and the working group start to work, the clock starts to tick, and there is a 3-year time to come up with a standard. So there was a discussion because we mentioned to the JTC that, okay, well, right, those standards are not going to be closed because, let's say now we're at 2021, maybe with some extensions of 6 months, 9 months, let's say an extension of 1 year, it's going to be 4 years. We started at 2020, let's say 2021, another 3-4 years, then we are in 2025. The regulations are not going to be probably ready at the time. So all those standards are going to be some kind of a good basis on draft level to wait for the regulations and start to do the verification between the standards and the regulation, because they have to work together. It cannot be that a regulation would say, build, have this and that performance up to 20 kilos, and the standard's going to say, have this and that performance until 50 kilos, whatever. So and we are on track. We are working. We have also until Christmas, we have like about 4 or 5 meetings of all kinds of working items. Many of us are in multiple working items. Makes sense, but we have. I think that we are on track, and it looks like we're going to have a good job done. At the beginning, it was like sort of, hey, why did we start standardization? What is the rush? But it's good to work on what is required at the moment, what can be worked at the moment. So it's going to be ready to have the coordination and interface with the regulations.
All right, thank you very much. Then I think we can move to the next question. And somebody's wondering, what is the scope and status of Swisspod's test facility in Colorado? And what is the difference to the test track in Lausanne?
Okay, well, in Lausanne, again, like I said, it's not full scale. It's a 1:6 scale where you know, you need less space and you need less maybe material, but this is like a small model that you can also project on the big model. So if you in Colorado, it's going to be full scale. So if you're doing tests and all kinds of experiments on full scale, they're going to be more crucial also from if from testing if it fails or not. Then it's going to be quite costly, and as I mentioned, funding is quite crucial at the moment. So the idea is to do the small and reflect on the Colorado. And the Colorado, we have also the TTCI, which is actually a Department of Transportation, the US, which is actually giving us the track, and we are doing together with them those tests. But those tests must be actually vetted and ensured as much as possible for success ahead of doing them. You cannot just go and waste, because at the end of the day, think about safety. It's going to be like in the future crash tests. You're not going to do a crash test on a Hyperloop full scale. You're first going to do some small tests.
All right, great. Then somebody is asking something as a follow-up, more or less. So which test infrastructures will Swisspod develop in the future, and what are they going to test there? How long will they be? Do you already have a prediction on that?
I know at the moment, I don't know if you were following us. We are quite, modest. We don't publish too much. We publish only when we have something concrete and something which is, which is actually done, which you can go and see and where you can go and touch. There are a lot of videos that you can sit with a designer and think, yes, let's do this, let's do that, and this is a beautiful video. Let's just post it and publish it to impress the whole world. But this is something that we don't know. We don't do at the moment. We have this test facility. We're going to check the propulsion and the full scale. So those two test facilities, they already can accommodate the work for at least 2 years, the next 2 years, if not more. Then later on, we're going to check actually if we can do more in other sites or the same site, prolong something, because in Lausanne, I mean, the test facility in Lausanne is actually next to the PFL. It's a confined area. There's not so much space actually in Switzerland for that. It's also very expensive, right? So at the moment there's no concrete plans to do something beyond that. We're going to advance step by step. We see with those two what's going on, and afterwards we see if we need to go further and what we need to do more.
Very good, thank you. Then somebody would like to ask you, in your opinion, would it be more worth it to standardize Hyperloop within Switzerland first before scaling up to Europe? For instance, implementing short of a Swiss JTC 20.
It's a good question, because the standardization process is not so easy. There's a lot of administration, there's a lot of structure. So at the end of the day, the standardization office in Switzerland, the SNV, is part and cooperating with the Senate. So there is a seat, and we are officially members there. And I can tell you, it's very nice to see also how they take into consideration and how they really listen to us and what we think. So at the end of the day, there's no what we want. Our wish is to globalize. Even the European standard will not be even enough for us. We would like to have the same standards. We have to have global standards also on all the continents. So to go and think, yes, the Swiss are going to do their job, it's not, I think, such a good idea, because the know-how of rail is distributed all over the world, and definitely in Europe. So at the end of the day, if you want to have operational excellence, if you want to do your job correctly, you have to also have a community for that. And to keep it within Switzerland may not be maybe a good idea. And even the Swiss cluster, the group, the Swiss group, is working also with a couple of other companies from the 7 Hyperloop companies. So, you know, to keep ourselves all the time separate than others, I am not so sure that the results are going to be so global.
All right. All right. And somebody asked a question about the size of Swisspod. How big is Swisspod at the moment? How much effort is given to research and development and also to standardization?
We are very lean company. We are going to launch a website, and we have a lot of openings, job openings. What can I say? We are. We're working with Hyperloop. Still, we have about I would say engineering force of about 150, and the rest is business, risk, and standardization. So at the end of the day, also part of our engineers are doing research, part of them are doing business, part of them are doing other things. We are very flexible, and yeah. But at the moment, it's more or less this style. But it's very much changing from time to time. And definitely we are growing.
Very good. That's very interesting. And then I would say, let's do one last question. What is the currently internationally leading regulation on FLS, so fire life safety?
International regulation.
It says internationally leading regulation on fire life safety.
Mm-hmm. I'm not. I don't have it on my mind at the moment. I can. It's not yet applicable, probably, to Hyperloop, right? So at the moment, probably there is an international regulation or international standard from ISO on fire life safety, FLS. But this is we are not there yet. We are not there yet. From the shift to rail, we decided to have also a project group of doing safety, and we just launched this project group. And what we are doing at the moment is do the risk mapping and go into the incident and accident level of Hyperloop. We compare it to the aviation, we compare it to rail. Definitely, okay, space is not probably applicable for this, and we decided that we are going to be even more restrictive than aviation. Then what we are doing now, we started to do, is actually list all the risks, and then we will go into fire, evacuations, etc. And then from there, we're going to connect the regulations into the standards, because in the standards we have also regulations, but the regulations for fire safety come from all over the world, from all the countries. There is probably an ISO one, but certain countries were going to have their own adaptations. Like, let's say a fire, let's say in Switzerland, you have for the tunnels specific regulations, right? And for highways or for all kinds of other weather conditions and landscapes, you're going to have others. So at the moment, we don't touch the specific regulations for that, because we wait also for the regulators to come to start actually to do their job, and we are doing more the standards at the moment. Yeah.
All right. All right. So I just saw two other questions. So there's also one question in the chat and not in the Slidos. I would like to quickly jump to that question. And it's from a student in industrial design. And he's asking, or he's stating that industrial designers have already designed the cases that you talked about. And he's asking if there will be a collaboration in the future.
a collaboration between industrial designers and,
I guess, and you or the standardization committee, I assume.
oh, we have industrial designers in our team, and they're working on those issues. But of course, you know, when we talk about fire, let's say evacuation, right, and then you have seats, and then you think, okay, well, where the people are going to put their luggage, and there's a fire. Okay, like in the airplane, you cannot go out if the luggage is here or there. Where to do the fire. So at the moment, we are actually sketching everything until we are going to have the standards meeting the regulations, like in the aircraft. Let's say A320, A330, A340, etc., etc. They will have their fire escape, and they have their own procedures. You know, all the bits and pieces are actually now working, trying to find the way to the same meeting place where regulations, standards, industrial design, engineering, and business are going to meet together. But definitely there's going to be a collaboration, because the industrial designers will come to the picture. After we have finished, we finalized the working group, work, like let's say here are the standards that we can start work with. Here is the system architecture that we have to work with, etc., etc. Then we go again to drill down another level, and little by little we're going to come to this detail, to be granular on the level of what's the distance between exit doors, how the evacuation is going to happen. You are traveling in a vacuum, how are you going to do that? What is going to be the height of the pod? And you know, our CEO, for example, is 1.93 meters. We have to be careful, right? So you have to know, okay, well, there are tall people coming into the pod, right? So sometimes I've seen that sketches are taken with the industrial designers, and I'm writing to them, and it's like, hey guys, our CEO is 1.93 meters. He has to come in, and he has to also be evacuated correctly and not all the time landing in the pod. So definitely there's going to be a collaboration. This is Fachhochschule Nordwest Basel. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Stucky, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So would you say the students may reach out to you if you would like to work on something?
Yes, I mean, we will launch the new website, and there are a lot of openings, also in standards and governance. What we're looking mostly is engineers, mechanical engineer, material engineers. We are looking for aviation space engineers, aerospace engineers, and you will see, I think that the new website is going to be launched definitely in the next 1 or 2 weeks, something like that. So you can go to Swisspods.ch, and you can see, and yes, we are growing.
That's great. And then, like the final question, there's another one, and somebody is asking what kind of propulsion system, or what is the underlying technology for your propulsion system? Is there something that you can share about that?
No, unfortunately not at this moment. We have quite a lot of, we're doing quite a lot of research. We have some IPs, and we have some patents in registration. So definitely this is not going to be at the moment public. But what I can tell you is that if you look at the 7 companies at the moment, then propulsion systems and the design is sometimes changing. There is one company that changed the track from a downward track to hanging track, and so the technologies are also not yet finalized. But of course, for the testing, we know actually what we're going to test, and that this is actually part of our engineering, not yet public. And to publish once we have results, and we can go on, and we can say, okay, well, this is working, then we can, I think that we will share, but there's still time to this prophecy.
Great. Okay, great. So yes, I would like to close the question round, and I would like to thank you, Sheila, for all your explanations and for answering all the questions from our audience tonight. And also, of course, thank you very much for your talk and your input to our seminar. We appreciate it a lot, and thank you very much for contributing and yes, to help this seminar. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure, and thank you very much for asking questions. This is how I see that the people were actually listening.
Yes, exactly. Perfect.
Good. Thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, and it's not only Sheila's presentation that comes to an end, it's also our seminar series of this semester. And with that, I would like to, in the name of all the organizations, I would like to thank again all the participants and all the speakers of this semester. It was really very interesting and diverse semester, and with very diverse talks. And yes, we would like to thank everyone again. As a quick information again, all our talks will be uploaded to the website, which is vacuumtransport.org. And of course, you can also find the information on all our social media sites. But the past schedules and the past presentations will be uploaded to this website. And yes, with this, I would also like to to tell that we plan to continue this seminar series next semester. Maybe again, as a reminder, we're basically coming from 4 different organizations. So it's Eurotube from Switzerland, the Institute of Hyperloop Technology in Germany, TUM, Hyperloop, also from Germany, and Swissloop from Switzerland. And this is why it always makes it a bit difficult to define a time frame for the seminar, because all our semesters are not starting at the same time. And yes, so as soon as this seminar series is debriefed and the next one is planned, we will publish the dates for the new semester and the seminars. And again, it will all be uploaded to our website, vacuumtransport.org. And we will also communicate on our social media channels, and would be very looking forward to welcoming all of you again next semester. And yes, to continue the seminar series and to continue and help build this platform where we can foster exchange and build this Hyperloop community. Yes, so in that sense, I would like to wish everyone a nice Christmas season, and then afterwards a Happy New Year. And it was very educative and very nice this semester. Thank you very much for everybody who participated. And we're very looking forward to welcoming you all again next semester. And until then, we wish you a good time and stay safe and take care, everyone. Goodbye,
Great.
everyone.
Thank you very much. I think also a big thanks to Natalie for moderating all of this and for all of the organization, to all of you as well. Yeah, thank you very much for that. I'm very much looking forward to next year, and I guess it will be around April. So take a look out for an April announcement when it's going to be up. And then, yeah, everybody have a nice Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Same to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the learnings.
Thank you. Bye.
We see each other in the next edition, 2022. Bye
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
See you soon, everyone. Goodbye. Bye.